Today I'm joined by Anja Bolbjerg. Anja is double Olympian, double Olympic finalist, competed at the 1998 and 2002 Olympic Games in the women's mogules, representing Denmark. Welcome, Anja.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you for having me.
Anja, can you explain in a few words what the sport of mogules is?
Yeah, it's mogul skiing. It's skiing, and it's kind of like bumps and jumps. So it's acrobatic form of skiing where you go rodeo style down a bumpy slope, and you have to do 2 jumps with tricks in the air, and it's all judged by judges.
Okay, so they jump the difficulty and the style. Oh, they look at the difficulty and the style of the jumps, and that is judged.
Yes, and they look at the speed of your run and at the technique of your turns.
Okay. And how did you get into that? Because from my research, I saw this sport is only Olympic since 1992 as a test event and since 1994 as a complete event. So how did you get into that? It hasn't been an Olympic discipline earlier, right?
No, it hasn't. It was in Calgary. It was the test event. In 1992 was the first time it was a real official event in Tignes, in Albertville Olympics. And I was skiing more or less like a ski bum at the time that these Olympics were on. And together with my younger brother, we thought this was a really, really cool event. We had always, kind of looked for the mogul runs for an extra challenge because we were not part of any club or anything like that where you could put up gates and ski the more conventional styles at the time. So that was our challenge, and our love was in the moguls.
Okay. When did you make the transition into moguls as a dedicated sport?
I did around those 92 Olympics, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool. So then within a few years, you made it to the Olympics.
Well, the weird thing is, I'm from Denmark. You're from Holland. We have no mountains in our countries, and so there was no like Denmark tour that I could compete in. And with my brother, we said, well, there's only one way. We've got to go international with the level that we have, and so we looked at where we could compete, and obviously we were last every time, especially me. I was really, really dead last every time. But, with the training, it moved on and it got better and better. But it was together with the best straight up from the start.
Cool. In your life as an athlete, what was your darkest moment?
Well, that was definitely when my brother that I just told you about, that he died. He died from a cancer. And our whole skiing adventure was together. This was our project together. We really wanted to qualify for the Olympics together, but he got a cancer and he died in '97, 1 year before the Olympics. So yeah, he never got to see me compete in the Olympics, but I got to go, and that whole thing was tough for me because, well, of course, because it's sad and I miss him, and I also had this feeling of unfair that I got to do all this that he wanted to do, and he was the better one, and he died.
How did you recover from that?
That's a really tough question. I don't know how you really recover from that, but time is a big thing. And one thing I remember is my coach at one point. I kept competing. I didn't stop because this was within the Olympic qualifying year, and I know that he wanted me to keep competing and qualify. So I kept, even though I was in like this zombie world where I didn't notice anything around me, I just on autopilot went and did the things, and obviously I didn't do very well. And at one point my coach says to me, Anja, you just look like a loser in everything you do. You're just a loser when we go to dinner. You're a loser in everything you do. And it was really, really tough to take that at the time. because I just lost my brother. But at the same time, it was like, hey, snap out of it. And it helped somehow, for me to move on and be present again. But recover, I don't think you ever recovered fully from losing your brother.
Yeah, I can believe that. In my research, I also saw you won a World Cup leading up to the Olympic Games in 1998. So, which means you have put yourself into the spot of being a contender for the title.
Yeah.
But then you get badly injured prior to the Olympics.
Yeah.
What goes on in an athlete if that happens just a few months out of the Olympics?
Well, I was leading the World Cup because I had got some good results before Christmas. So up at the Christmas break, we have like a 1 week break or something at Christmas. I was leading the World Cup, and it was a big deal, of course, in the Olympic year. And it has never happened to anyone from my country to be in that position in the sport of skiing. So it was a big deal back home as well. And I just, together with my coach, we just didn't want to, rest on the laurels, and we wanted to keep working. And even though I got, kind of like, hey, watch out because your back is not capable of just keeping going like that. I kept going, and my discs just herniated, and it actually happened when I got back to compete at the same place I was when my brother had died the previous year. So make of that what you want, but I don't think it's a coincidence. So that, in my experience, because I didn't have anybody with real world-class experience in my entourage, and I was just, so focused on keeping on the World Cup schedule that I just kept traveling around to all the stops up until the Olympics, where I should have probably, gone somewhere for rehab and gotten ready and forgotten about those last World Cups because it wasn't important compared to the Olympics. But anyways, I got to the Olympics, and the only way I could compete was that my coach went out to look at the course, and back then the courses were a little more irregular than they are today. So you would have like a few long bumps and then a short one and then a big one. And then, so he would draw that on a piece of paper for me, and I'd lie on my bed with my back pain, studying the course. So I knew it by heart. And then I just go out, do my run, and come back home. And that was how it was done. And on the adrenaline, I guess I didn't feel the pain when I was competing. I didn't. But I wasn't even able to sit down for dinner.
Okay. I've tortured you long enough. What was your best moment?
Oh, well, winning the World Cup was a great, great moment. It was a good moment because I was so afraid of the course, to be honest. It was there was the steepest course of the tour in La Plagne in France. And it was very icy conditions, and everybody was scared of the course. But I kind of got my acts together. I had a little trick in my back pocket, and I was the only one who was able to do an extra turn on one of the longer bumps. And I did it. It paid off, and I won. And I had, when I started skiing, I never thought I would win a World Cup. So that was a huge moment for me.
How has it influenced your life?
It's a big part of my identity even today. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, right? If not more. So it has influenced my life in giving me some kind of a confidence I can pull out at different moments, because I have these tricks, the 3, 2, 1, go, and it's time. It's just this confidence that you can do a little more than you think when I need that. Yeah. I think that's a big gift.
Yeah, I believe that too. If you could go back in time 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years, what advice would you give a younger Anja?
Get a mentor. like a mentor who can relate to the situation you're in, who's not invested in the project as such, but who's invested in you, who's worried about, not worried, but who has your best interest at heart, and who's not, not the results, not the federation, not your branding, someone who gets you. Because sometimes you'll be in positions where you have to make big decisions. Sometimes the coach takes care of that, but you want to be able to have your own input as well, and that's where it's just it would be a big help to have someone who you can talk to about whatever the thing is.
And
so get a mentor.
And you think that person needs to be a separate person than the coach?
The coach can act as a mentor, and I even say you can have different mentors for different things, but I think it's a good idea to have someone who's not your parent, not your coach, not your, maybe not even often, and you know this as a conditioning coach or a physical therapist or athletic trainer, you will take a little bit of that role. But even someone who's been in your exact position, who's been competing, who has a little more of a perspective from away, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what I realized just now when you were talking. It needs to be someone who has a bit more perspective and is not that much involved in the entire process.
Yeah.
Because essentially the coach is also invested because his success or your success is his success, right? So
yeah.
They will always look at the performance angle.
Yeah.
What are the habits that make you a successful person or athlete?
Well, I don't know. I'm not really big on routines and habits, as I think maybe some other people will tell me I am, but as I see it, I'm not. But believing that I can learn, I think is a big, that's not really a habit, is it? But being committed and determined, I guess, can be a habit, right?
Yeah, and the ability to believe also, I think. Is that something that is taught to you by your sport as well? Because in the end, it requires quite a bit of guts to do that kind of sport that you are doing, right? So does it also teach you to be a bit more determined and dedicated?
Yeah, it definitely does, because I didn't get into my sport being super brave. I was afraid of jumping. I was afraid of a lot of the things that I was supposed to do. But you just kind of have to find your strategies of how do you get over it. And sometimes it's just having that coach who tells you, listen, I can't give you my balls, right? Mm-hmm. Which, that can be the thing, but often it has to come from inside of you, right? If it's the 3, 2, 1 go, I got to do it, or yeah.
Okay. Do you have a morning routine? How did you get ready for the day as an athlete?
Music. I put on music to put me in the mood, and do a little bit of a muscular wake up. So that would usually be dancing if in my room, and a good breakfast, and there you go.
How do you
prepare? On the hill, there's a whole routine, of course, but the music in the morning would get me going usually.
Okay. How do you prepare for important moments?
That goes back to focusing on what you can do, and that I can do more than I think, because I have good humility in training. Like, I'm okay being a beginner. I'm okay learning something new where I suck. But you come to a point where you got to take that humility aside and say, I can do this, and not focus on all the reasons that you need to train more, and just focus on the reasons why you got this. And yeah, I think that's been the biggest learning thing for me, because I would always go back to this. Well, I should have done this more. I can do this more. And yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And you mentioned this 3-2-1 go.
Mhm.
It's something that's specific to your sport that you have developed for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's in a lot of sports. It's that's our sign when it's competition, whether it's 3-2-1 go or attention ready go or whatever they say in your sport. But I've actually seen since a huge TED talk that, I don't know, millions of viewers, where the woman explains this, that to get her out of some kind of
Mel Robbins.
and I see that's what we do in sports all the time. If you are on top of a cliff that you don't want to, because I did freeride skiing after the Moguls skiing. I did freeride skiing, and sometimes you have to jump cliffs where you think, I don't really feel like doing this, but then giving yourself that 3-2-1 go, and then it's just not. It really, really helps. So, yeah. And it helps in any situation, really.
Yeah. Okay. How do you overcome setbacks?
I think one of my big advantages is that I have a very positive mindset. So I can always somehow, it comes natural to me to relate the situation I'm in to something that's way worse. And that helps me think forward and think, okay, this is not as bad as it could be, and I can learn this and this and move on. So yeah, taking the lesson in that situation you're in, sometimes thinking, that nothing happens for whatever. Everything happens for a reason, is what people say, right? And having a little bit of that kind of mindset helps me move forward if there's a big setback. And then, of course, focusing on the little bits of progress I make. And I think of all the injuries I've been through, that has really, really helped me make it through and get back on what I wanted to do.
Okay. And I'm just thinking, is that something, this positive outlook, that you always had, or you somewhere developed it along your athletic career?
I think some of it is what, I think it's my way of just dealing with, we all have different strategies of dealing with adversity, and I think mine is just that more positive. They could have been a worse attitude. And yes, I think it develops through everything you go through. I mean, even when I divorced, stuff like that, I was like, at least I can go skiing, because he didn't want to go skiing, whatever, then it becomes natural. Maybe in the beginning it's not. And we know that in sports, we always have to focus on the things that we can control and not focus on, whatever the universe throws at us. And so, yeah, having that with me on my athletic journey is a way you put it to practice, and the more you put it to practice, it becomes second nature, I think. Yeah. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. Who's your role model and why?
That's a really tough question. And I know that sounds weird, but I don't have any huge role model. As like, I go for one person and say, wow, this is really cool, or I really like this, but no, I don't have like someone that I model.
Yeah, it's not that weird as you think. Quite a few people I've interviewed, they don't have role models.
Okay.
I also thought that's quite interesting, but yeah. It seems to be a trait of high performance not to have a role model.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's definitely a trend. What's the best advice you received, and who gave it to you?
Well, this has nothing to do with sports, really, but I think my mom once, when I was a teenager and I was pissed off at one of my friends, and my mom said to me, Anja, you know, your friends, you don't have to love everything about them. They can still be your friends. And it's I think it's a really, really good advice, because it helps you, you know, relate to people and accept them for who they are, and that you don't have to love everything about them in order for you to be friends. Actually, you can appreciate the differences, and I think that's the best advice I've ever gotten.
Oh, really cool. How does a typical training day look like for a freestyle skier?
Well, you get up pretty early in the morning because you have to go up to the mountain. Well, usually you stay somewhat up in the mountain, but still have to go up on the hill. And when it's off season, it's usually up in meters. It would be like 3,500 meters is where you're training, because that's where the snow is. And you're training in the off season because in the season you're competing. So you get up early in the morning. You go up usually to some kind of a restaurant or place up there where you can do a proper warm up. You get all your equipment on, and you go to the course. You go side slip down the course, so go sideways, looking at everything, and kind of getting in the mode mentally, checking out how does it look today, how's the snow, and then you do usually one warm up run, and then it's all in from pretty much the second run, because in the competition you have like usually 2 or 3 runs before it to go through the course before it actually starts. So you want to be ready fast, and then usually you can do about 10 full runs in a session, and then you're done. Your legs are done, because it's like doing 60-70 squats full on for one run, plus you have to do the tricks in the air. So it's for the legs, it's a pretty good workout.
Yeah, I believe that. And do you take that into consideration when you plan the week, so that you have days with more impact and days with less impact, so kind of a high loading, low loading, high loading kind of scheme?
Yeah. When I started, we would do 5 days on and then 2 days off. Mm-hmm. But as I saw more and more people change that rhythm, so it'd be 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. And well, that's the ideal. But then you have weather coming in, and sometimes the glacier will be closed. Sometimes you just can't train because you can't see anything, or just different reasons. It can be that you move this schedule around, but that's usually how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to nominate someone to be interviewed?
I think you should. I know who I would do. It's Jeffrey Bignell. He's from your country. Do you know him?
What's his name?
Jeffrey Bignell.
Full disclosure here, I work in the Netherlands, but I'm not Dutch, so I'm actually German. But
he's my generation. He skied moguls for Holland, but he also did I think motocross or something like that, and at a high level. And he's done quite a few awesome things. So that would be one person I think could be fun for you to talk to. Okay.
That's really cool. Yeah, the freestyle skiers, they also train in the facility where I train my athletes. So maybe someone can pull a connection there.
Yeah.
You're running a project called The Athlete Story, where you help athletes that are transitioning out of their career to make a successful transition. I think it's a really interesting and also really cool project. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, when you stop sports, and if you're still an active athlete, you probably don't put much thought into this, but when you stop sports, there's actually a big void. For almost every athlete will feel this void. And even if you have planned out what you want to do afterwards and all, it's something you have to deal with. And so I've been thinking about how can you kind of make this transition easier. And so I've created an Athlete Story, which is both also a podcast. There's also a seminar that I call Successful After Sports, where you like we go through different things of the inner work that you do to find out who you are beyond sports, because that's usually the biggest question. Who am I when I'm not the runner or cyclist or whatever your sport is? And and then I'm hosting this as a network, so that you can network with other athletes who've been in the same situation as you, who's had sports as their career for a while or for many years, and who are now transitioned beyond sports. And just so you keep that athletic identity while you still move on, because I think a lot of sports psychologists and stuff say, well, the more you're connected to your athletic identity, the harder the transition. But I say try and keep, the strengths in the athletic identity. Feeling that you're still an athlete after sports will help you stay in shape. It will help you find your confidence when you need it. It'll help you perform when you need it. So and then just networking for fun is also the point with it.
And where can you find this? What's the URL? What's the direction?
You can go to athletestory.com, or for the summit is successfulaftersports.com. So those are the two.
And the summit opens periodically, or is it open all the time?
Well, now you can buy access to the one that was just there, and there'll be a new one regularly, like once or twice a year.
Okay, really cool.
Of course, with new people.
Yeah. What's going on in the life of Anja Bolbjerg further than that at this moment in time?
Well, I don't know if you can see, it doesn't look like a typical living room here. I have got this place in Italy. The Mediterranean is just in front, and it's a big piece of land where I want to create a training camp facility, yoga retreats facility, and a bed and breakfast. So that's the big project I'm working on besides Athlete Story.
Oh, that's really cool. I want to come and visit it one day.
Yeah, you should. You're invited.
Cool. Where can people find you?
Again, athletestory.com, or you can connect with me on Instagram, or so my name, Anja Bolbjerg, is not as easy to spell as Athlete Story, but I'm sure you can find me. You can tune into the Athlete Story podcast and find me there.
Really cool. Anja, thanks a lot for your time. That was great.
Thanks for reaching out, Christian. I had fun.